Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dottie.
Welcome to the regular meeting of our Parks, Recreation, and Community Service meeting. This is October 1st, and it is 3 o'clock. So let's have roll call.
Commissioners Khan,
Here.
Rockfogel,
Here.
Sharkey,
Here.
Sinanian is absent, President Ward.
Here. Okay, our first item.
Okay, our first item is an introduction, One Book, One Glendale.
And we have a few folks here from the library. Last year they came and introduced the One Book, One Glendale presentation to our commission, and they're back again this year to give us a brief orientation about what we can look forward to this year.
A new book. Great.
One Book, One Glendale 2008. I'm Mary Alice Wallum, and this is my colleague Pat Zeider. And it is our great pleasure to come and talk about One Book, One Glendale 2008. It's a citywide reading event, and we invite and encourage everyone in Glendale to read the same book at the same time, come to book discussion groups that we have all around the city, attend programs about the book, about the themes of the book, and then meet the author when she comes to Glendale. And in just a moment, Pat is going to tell you about our book, but I want to tell you a little bit about the whole idea behind One Book. It's not only to promote reading, the importance of reading, it's not just meant to celebrate reading, but it's also meant to bring our community together and have a conversation, a community conversation about one thing, a book. This program started in Seattle in the 90s, and it's spread. There are hundreds and hundreds of cities that have One Book programs. There are churches and temples that have it. There are corporations. There are college campuses that have it. And we feel very fortunate to come back for our second year here at Glendale. We have an adult-teen component and a children's component. So we have an adult-teen book and a children's book. And I'm going to ask Pat to talk about the books, and in just a moment I'll talk about the programs we're going to do.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. The book that we've chosen this year for our adult-teen program is the one on the screen. It's Enrique's Journey by Sonia Nazario. The book was originally written as a series of articles for the LA Times in 2002 by Ms. Nazario, and she won a Pulitzer Prize for the story. It's a true story of Enrique, who was a 17-year-old boy who immigrated from Honduras through Mexico to the United States illegally on the tops of trains to rejoin his mother, who had immigrated to the U.S. when he was a child. And the author, Sonia Nazario, who is on the left in the picture, realized that she would have to recreate Enrique's whole experience in order to really write a realistic portrayal of his story. So she went to Mexico and spent some time riding the tops of trains and experiencing some of the things as Enrique. There's also a children's component of our program, One Book, One Glendale for younger readers, and the book this year is Any Small Goodness by Toni Johnston. Johnston's the local author who lives in San Marino, and she'll be appearing, as will Sonia Nazario. It's sort of a bittersweet story. It's a novel of a young boy's life growing up in East Los Angeles, told from his point of view and his family's.
So people often ask, how do you choose a book for a whole city? Well, to say it's part art, part science, and lots of wringing of the hands, but we try to choose a book that has broad appeal. And we try to choose a book that has themes that people in Glendale can identify with, either from life experience or things they've read in the newspaper. And of course, immigration is something on everyone's minds these days. So we try to do that. We try to choose a book that's not too thick. I call it a modestly sized book. And I think one of the most important elements is we try to choose a book that people are going to want to talk about. And so we think Enrique's Journey and our children's book really fill the bill on those. We have a reader's guide that we have thousands of these printed. We'll pass them out everywhere. It tells not only about the book but our programs. It is a citywide read, so people can come to the library and check out books. We have hundreds of copies. 4 high schools have classrooms that are reading Enrique's Journey, and we are partnering with Glendale Community College this year, and we're just thrilled about that. Last year, they participated on a small basis. This year, they're a partner. We have book groups, and our first one is this Sunday on the patio at Whole Foods. Wonderful refreshments, a discussion, and it's always interesting to partner with a community organization. They wanted to do something, and we think it's an interesting pairing. After the book discussion, there'll be a shopping tour of Whole Foods. Pardon me? It's at 11. Thank you, Pat. And we have a book group at Barnes & Noble, and we have book groups at 5 different libraries. We also have some accompanying program at the Brand Art and Music Library. We're having an arts program on Hispanic arts, and Gustavo Arellano is coming to the library. And if you don't know him, he writes the very provocative Ask a Mexican column, and people write in questions about Mexicans, and they ask a Mexican to answer. And so he's going to come and talk about his book, including his new book on Orange County, and answer questions from the audience. So we think it's a very exciting program. We're encouraging people to read, to go to our programs, and all of this leads up to the first week of November. Sonia Nazario will be in Glendale on Wednesday, November the 5th. It's an easy date to remember. It follows Election Day. So at 7 p.m. she'll be talking at the Central Library Auditorium, and the next day she'll be at Glendale Community College at noon. So we invite everybody to read. It's a really wonderful experience, and it's so interesting just to hear people talk about this one book that they've read. Can we answer any questions?
How was last year's One Book, One Community?
Well, it was so good, and I say this without mud, that we really had a tough time coming up with a book for this year because it was such a great experience. If you remember, we read a fiction book about the Japanese internment, and that was just a really wonderful experience. We worked with the Japanese Museum down in downtown Los Angeles. So it was a success. A lot of people read. Classrooms read it. We had wonderful turnouts for our program, so we're looking for more of the same, if not more.
Dottie?
It was a very well-written book. It's sad, though. It was very sad, but a great choice. So many people don't know about the internment camps. The other question, I did have a question on the children's book. What age group is?
It's really about, go ahead, Pat.
Probably about, what, 4th through 8th?
Yeah.
4th through 8th
4th through
grade.
8th, maybe even 4 through 6 and 7.
Okay.
It's a younger book.
Okay. I always have to ask that when I'm buying books. That's always my first gift to a child.
Okay.
is books.
And of course, the author, Tony Johnson, will be in Glendale also, and I believe on November the 15th. And there's also going to be a cultural day, a Hispanic cultural day at the library. So we try to make it a full experience.
Great. And if people want to inquire about getting Enrique's Journey, would they check in with the library?
They can, most people will want to check out from the library. We do have hundreds of copies that people can check out. Some people like to own a book, and they can go to a local bookstore and buy one also. But we have free ones available for checkout.
Very good. Okay. Any other comments? Thank you very much.
I have one last question. Can individuals still purchase a book through Amazon, and a portion of the proceeds go to the Friends of the Library?
Thank you. Yes.
So.
And and thank you for prompting us. At Barnes & Noble on the weekend of their book group, which is the Saturday and Sunday, the 18th and 19th, they're going to have a book fair. And so if you buy anything, a book, a cup of coffee, a birthday gift, a portion will go to the Glendale Public Library for next year's One Book program. And we said this year we're going to start thinking about our 2009 title immediately. Thank you so much for having us here today. It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great cause. Okay. Let's see, the next item.
The next item is oral communications, but we have none.
Okay.
Item number 4, under consent items, we have approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on September 3rd, 2008.
When it was hard getting electronic copies, everybody had a chance to look at the written ones?
We got them.
Yeah.
Okay. Any corrections or?
No. I'd make a motion to approve as presented.
Okay, Rodney.
Second?
Okay. Let's have a roll call.
Okay, Commissioners Khan,
Yes.
Brockwogel,
Yes.
Sharkey,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Here.
is absent, I'm sorry, and President Ward.
Yes. Okay, very good. All right, let's move on to business agenda.
Okay, agenda item 5A is a report for information only, the first one being a Rock Haven update.
And President Ward, members of the commission, Coco Panosian is here this afternoon. In response to Commissioner's request, we will be regularly placing a Rock Haven update on our commission agenda. That way, you as commissioners and also the public at home can continue to receive regular feedback. So Coco's here to give us an update.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Ward, members of the Commission. My name is Coco Panosian. Regarding Rock Haven, we did a brief update on Rock Haven in the package that you received. Most of our work has been focused on the last month watering and doing some of the landscaping work. We did hire one of our seasonals. We are scheduled for 2. One of them, we hopefully will finish all the process and get them on board early next week. One of the seasonals we hired working the afternoon shift has been doing quite a bit of the maintenance. A lot of it is cutting down on the weeds, the ivy, cutting back on the ivy, bringing up the rock wall on the outside, doing a lot of the brush clearance in some of the areas. Has been coming back pretty well. And as I mentioned in the last report, it is flowering. It is a good time right now to get a guy out there and make sure we beautify the landscaping of the facility. We are still scheduled for sometime later on this month in October. We had scheduled for mid, now we're looking at towards October 20th, I believe, when the next council meeting would be for the ARG contract. We're looking at getting ARG their contract to do the study at the facility, the historic assessment. Meanwhile, while we get the seasonals on board, we've notified the security company that we will no longer need their services to the full extent. Once we do have the second seasonal on board, we are going to cut down on their services by 12 hours a day, which would be a somewhat of a significant savings to our budget, to the Rock Haven budget, given that we paid them a lot more for the hour. And on Sundays, currently, we're still going to use their services for the full 24-hour extent because our season will be working Monday through Saturday. For the caretaker recruitment, that is in the process. We're trying to finalize the caretaker agreement with the city attorney's office. There are some changes we have made from the previous caretaker agreements. It is more solid, and hopefully within soon that will be available to be publicized, so we begin the actual recruitment. We've had some interest from staff and other members of the city to for that position as a caretaker. And when we do have a caretaker in place, obviously there will be at one point we will evaluate and might have to do away with the security service needs completely once and for all, and have a caretaker managing the facility, keeping an eye out for evenings and during the weekend, Sunday, and our staff working during the week, Monday through Saturday. That is briefly, we're actually going to do a photo presentation. We're hoping for a little bit more of the cleanup so we can show during some of the work that we did, the cleanup, the watering and the vegetation growth, and back to somewhat of a decent landscaping look on the facility. We're hoping by the next commission meeting we'll be able to do a photo presentation for the public and commission to see, as well as the photos that we do take we'll be putting up on the website, which has been very successful. For September, the Rock Haven website had received 5,020 some hits, which is a pretty good number of hits for a website.
How many?
5,020, and I believe that is the accurate number. I got an email from Karen this morning. She notified me of that.
It is actually the third most popular item on our department website.
There's a lot of interest in
Look
the
at the progress,
community.
yeah. Nice facility.
From the Rock Haven website, are people able to leave comments?
Not comments, not at this point. The website currently is more or less for people to be able to sign up and look at what some of the work that we've done, some of the reports we presented to commission, to council, some of the communication, the photos of the facility. That is all that they are able to view right now. At one point, we do have plans to get some more technical specialists to help us do a really nice design for the Rock Haven website, at which point we may consider an option to include some public comment if they like to give us some feedback as to what they think.
Okay.
The last time you spoke, to us at the last hearing, we talked about the possibility of having a meeting prior to bringing, I guess, a certain consultant on board. Is this monthly update that you're going to be giving, is this kind of in lieu of having that meeting?
I would not say, Commissioner Khan, that it is in lieu of. We're still looking at doing a community meeting, but I think the goal at this point is to look at some of the changes to the facility so we are able to present them a little more than what we have currently to present to the public. Given the first community meeting that we held, some of the cleanup work we did, and the watering, like I had mentioned, kind of the same process we are using. We're shooting for one, hopefully, in the near future. And it may not precede the
Selection of the
selection of the consultant,
That's
correct.
fine. Okay.
Okay, just keep us informed. Brittany?
And just wanted to add to Coco's comments, absolutely, we will not bypass any meetings. But this, again, was an opportunity for us to give you, the commissioners, continual information. And we do receive calls all the time from the public wanting to know what's happening, especially if they happen to drive by and they see something going on, what's happening. In response to Commissioner Rottfogel's question, they can, through the Contact Us option on the left side of the web page, and that is on most every page of the website. They can click on that, and that will get transferred directly to our department for a response. So if someone does have a comment, a question, we can give them a response. So even though there's not a direct website link just for Rockhaven, there is that ability on the city's website that they can take advantage of as well. So,
General comments, and then you just
Yes.
react to them.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, very nice facility. I know that going to the end of the summer, make sure that all the roofs are tight and everything else. It's 100 degrees today, but it will rain. Very nice facility.
Promise?
Now, let's hope. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Coco.
Okay, the next report on the agenda is a boxing ordinance update.
And President Ward, members of the commission, last night our department presented this item to City Council. I don't know if any of you had a chance to watch it. And the report is in your packet, so if at any time you have any questions regarding the report or anything that happened last night, let me know. This ordinance has been in effect since 1947, and we have had requests over the past few years, now that not so much, well, boxing and mostly the mixed martial arts has become more and more mainstream and popular again. We've received some requests at the Civic to have those types of events there and had to deny those requests because of the city-wide ordinance, which prohibits it. Now, after looking into this, and as I explained to Dave, I know more about boxing and mixed martial arts than I ever thought I would. But in addition to the specific municipal code which prohibits boxing, sparring, and wrestling, there's also some zoning portions of the municipal code that would have to also be amended. I just learned that yesterday, and more in depth, Scott Howard, our city attorney, explained that to our council last night. So there is more to this process altogether if we want to continue to open this up on a regular basis. We did have a number of members of the public coming out in support of these types of events, approximately 18 to 20 of them. And after hearing the public feedback, the overall consensus of the council, or the motion from council, was that we would go ahead and allow this one particular promoter an opportunity to host one trial event at the Civic, and that it would be for boxing only. That was pretty much a consensus amongst most of the council members, that they right now did not have a desire to see all these cage fighting or mixed martial arts types of fighting activities. So we will have more than likely one trial evening that may have multiple matches throughout the evening, and depending upon the success of that and the lack of incidents occurring at the same time, basically seeing how it goes, then they may extend a few additional events over the course of the next year. But this first event will be a pseudo-trial event in itself. Now, along those lines, this promoter will be working with Ross Ferris, our Civic Auditorium Manager, and also Tom Lorenz from our Police Department, working out all the logistical details. I think that, a lot of people look at the Civic as a very large open space, and wow, look at all this room, and it can accommodate all these people, and certainly there's a fire code capacity. Usually that fire code capacity is a much larger number than what is realistically either comfortable or logistically possible for a particular event. So some preliminary numbers estimate an event that could potentially hold about 900 to 1,000 spectators around a regulation boxing ring, and that would also be utilizing the stage as a potential seating area.
Upstairs, not downstairs.
Yes, not downstairs. I guess the promoters that have looked at the Civic haven't necessarily been interested in the downstairs because of all the columns create visual obstructions for spectators, and so you couldn't really sell very good tickets or seats for the downstairs level. So this is, not just a pilot type of trial. It's also kind of a fact-finding mission for us as well, because we'll need to work with the fire department and find out, how much clearance do we need down each of the aisles, et cetera. I think one of the things that came out in this whole report and in my research as well, that boxing, martial arts, all forms of martial arts, kickboxing, are regulated by the state, except where those events are held on Native American land, where don't fall into that category. So in this particular case, all of these types of fighting are regulated by the state. Everything from the timekeeper, the sparring partner, the medical technician, the boxer, the manager, the promoter, everybody has to be licensed and sanctioned by the state. Now, the only thing that they do not license is wrestling, and so many of the different venues that I talked to and that Ross talked to, not so hot on the wrestling because it's not regulated. So, but again, after last evening, this will be boxing only, and we'll see how it goes. The promoter does understand that they will have to absorb all costs, police costs, permit costs, any additional fire personnel that are required by the city, et cetera. And, he basically said, I'll have to look at the numbers. So we'll see how it goes.
I didn't have a chance to watch I watched some of the speakers last night, but I didn't watch anything else. I kind of flipped back and forth, and then by that time it was the hearing had completed. So I got the sense that there was a number of people that were in support, and then I didn't hear all the talk back and forth, but the questions that I was kind of curious about was what would be like the economic benefits for the city? Does it generate a fair amount of revenue for the Civic Auditorium? That was kind of one thing. The second thing is, and you answered about the capacity issue, about how many people would be coming and going, and then how often would you be having these types of events and things like that?
So to answer your first question about the revenue, Commissioner Kahn, we estimated, based upon some previous requests to hold events, approximately $10,000 per event at the Civic, and that would be for permit revenue, and if parking revenue would also be another source of revenue for us. However, at this time, we do not require a promoter of any type of event to give us a percentage of concession sales or anything like that. So right now it's just strictly the permit fees, but it would be approximately $10,000 per event. In terms of the number of events throughout the year, basically after hosting this one event, the council would like to see this come back, kind of give it a full evaluation. One of our council members mentioned that they thought, maybe we restrict the number to 3 or 4 per year. They didn't want to see the Civic turn into the next MGM, Grand or Night at Caesar's Palace. So, but they were at least open to giving it a shot and seeing how it goes, and as long as there weren't any major incidences, they may be willing to consider, allowing further events or pursuing some of the other administrative or legislative changes that need to occur. But for right now, it was kind of like, let's wait and see how this first one goes, and then we'll go from there. And, the promoter, of course, he and some of the members of the public, we're really hoping that we could turn this whole thing around. And the mayor and council did a really nice job of saying, listen, for an ordinance that has been in effect for, 60 some odd years, this is a big step for Glendale, which has been a fairly conservative city, and we're willing to give you a shot here. So,
Has the date been established, or?
No.
Okay.
No.
The other thing is, does the Civic have a liquor license? Will they be selling beer and wine?
That's a very good question, President Ward. The Civic itself, we can allow alcohol sales at the site as long as the permit holder obtains an ABC liquor license. So
Or they bring somebody in who has one.
Correct. So they will have to provide that documentation, and they are planning on having alcohol sales at that event because that is a chunk of revenue.
So I was wondering. And then advertisement. Okay.
So, excuse me, is basically what the council did last night is to give them a variance to the ordinance? How can you let somebody do that one time if there's an ordinance that says we can't do it?
Commissioner Rothvogel, our city attorney would be better to answer this question, but my understanding is that they can essentially provide some type of a temporary approval to allow this to happen as long as they have a majority vote. And again, I apologize for not having all the specifics, but not being the city attorney, I'm not as well versed, but they do have the authority to provide some type of approval/waiver that allows for, this one-time kind of trial event to occur. And then if from there they want to proceed with making this a permanent change to the ordinances, then we will pursue all of those steps, which have a whole protocol in themselves for changing.
You also mentioned we don't normally charge for or take a share of concessions. Is that something for this venue, for this activity that we're considering?
Commissioner Rothvogel, we're not considering it at this time only because it isn't a standard practice, and so we essentially are treating this
like any other
promoter, like any other person who would come and rent the Civic Auditorium for any type of event, whether it's a big show or wedding, etc. So, we don't require a percentage of sales. As we go through the budget process, seeing how the Civic does with being able to generate revenue sales, that may be something that we do down the line, although I do foresee if we were to do that, it would probably be across the board, and not just for this particular type of event. So right now, we do not require that, and after the item, Ross Ferris and I did have a chance to go outside and talk a few minutes with the promoter. Actually, he was very concerned that he would have to give that up because he maybe wasn't estimating the amount of police costs that may be associated with this type of event, and so he was a little nervous about how much money are we talking and would I have to give that up as well. And I told him that's not currently our practice for anyone, and we wouldn't just all of a sudden change the rules just for them. So, yeah.
What are the other cities that you've contacted, or maybe, I'm not sure who has contacted, that has fighting now, or boxing, I should say now? How do they handle their...
Well, it's interesting. It really, Commissioner Khan, it was really a lot of similarities and then a lot of differences. We contacted Stockton, Brisbane, Pasadena. I spoke with Santa Monica Civic Auditorium and the city of Maywood because I wanted to find a very large nearby venue and a smaller. Maywood, they actually do it through their Parks and Recreation Department. some cities require additional general liability insurance. We all pretty much have the same standard $1 million general liability insurance. A few of them require more. I believe it was the city of Stockton that required $3 to $5 million of general liability insurance, but no one else did. Some of them require a business license tax. Some of them do not. Some require a portion of the ticket sales proceeds to be paid as revenue, where others do not. In fact, I was most surprised by the city of Maywood. They cover almost all the costs and told me that they only generate between $800 and $2,800 per event, and they host multiple events throughout the year. But he also told me that in his city, given the activities, let's see how politically correct I can do this, given the nature of the activities that most of the residents partake in, this is considered a very positive outlet
Right.
for that community, and they view it as a public service to allow those types of events there as a form of entertainment to deter them from other types of maybe negative activities.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know that David Gonzalez Rec Center over in Sun Valley, at the Recreation Center, it's a sport, and they have a boxing facility on the recreation facility. But it's not for viewers, it's just for training and for activities to, like you say, blow off steam.
Yeah.
But it's very popular, but it's, a specific building set aside for a boxing arena.
And I should add, just as a bit of clarification, that our ordinance does allow those types of events as long as they are school, basically school, college, university. And that's how our PAL program is able to exist. The PAL boxing program is considered an after-school and a school-sanctioned
That's
program.
the police program?
Yes. So those are permitted as an after-school, prevention program. So those are permitted within the city, but the basically other forms of amateur professional boxing currently are not.
Sort of a commercial activity.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you.
Missed the meeting, got totally informed. That's very good. Any other comments, or we should move on?
Actually, it was a nice group of speakers. They were nice kids, nice speakers.
Well, it's a great sport. I mean, that's what recreation and parks are about, is sports, and boxing's one of them. Very good. Okay, next item.
Okay, the third report on the agenda is the 2008 Aquatics Program Evaluation.
And I'm going to invite Courtney Maglio up to the podium. She's our Community Services Coordinator in charge of our aquatics program here in Glendale. We recently completed our summer aquatics program, and given that we are gearing up and moving into hopefully having our own pool in the city, we thought it would be a nice opportunity to highlight what we currently do offer in the city, so the folks at home can know what we do have, and it'll maybe spark any additional ideas for programming that we can do in our hopefully new facility in the future. So, Courtney?
Good afternoon, President Ward, members of the Commission. My name is Courtney Maglio. I'm the Aquatics Coordinator. And this summer, we offered an 8-week aquatics program. We offered various components to that program: recreation swimming, instructional swim lessons, a swim team, youth water polo team, a junior lifeguarding academy, as well as recreational opportunities at 5 neighborhood wading pools. We have used Crescenta Valley High School in the past, but we did not use that facility this summer due to the school's need for their own programming. We hired 32 staff members, 17 of which were returning and 15 of which were new hired staff members. And of those 15 new hires, 4 of them have participated in either our junior lifeguard program or our swim team program. So that was something really exciting for us. We want to thank the Commission for raising the fees, for allowing the fees to be raised this year. We did raise the fees by $5 for both youth and adult swimming lessons, and that had no impact whatsoever on the participation, thankfully. We were 106% enrolled, meaning we had more participants than we actually initially thought. So that was a great thing. We did offer a couple of special events this summer. We do a Splish Splash Family Fun Day that's in cooperation with ABC7 and the American Red Cross and some other local cities. It's an event that's publicized by ABC as well as on our website and the Red Cross's website. So that's exciting for us, and we've done that for several years. And then we also do a special celebration called Vartivar. It's an Armenian celebration of water. It's something that we're at the pools, and so what we do is we encourage people to bring out water balloons and super soakers and any other type of fun toys that could be used to allow the kids some added fun for the day. We did operate within budget this year, and you will notice a savings in the salaries and benefits, but that's only because the full-time salary is not included in that. That's only what the hourly salaries were. On top of that, we also had another thank you to the Commission for approving the wading pool rentals. We did have 10 wading pool rentals, private parties this year, and we started that right as the season started, and we actually had 3 wading pool requests after the conclusion of the aquatics program. Thankfully, we had staff who were still willing to work the event, so we were able to accommodate. And so I think all the kids who had summer birthday parties at the wading pools had a really good time.
Very good.
Great.
So we used the 2 high school pools, both Hoover and Glendale
Yes.
were the locations, and then the 5 wading pools.
And we have used both those sites since the start of this program in the summer of 2000, with the exception of one summer each when Glendale High School was under construction one summer and Hoover High School was under construction the following summer, so we did not use it those summers. But other than that, we've used both those facilities for all 9 summers.
Great.
Any comments? I know we're looking forward to our facility, but it's
Yeah, I noticed
2 years away, I believe.
Council Member Najarian has it. He's ready.
He would be very proud, Commissioner Sharkey, that you are.
And through his goggles.
I was looking for a pen.
Very nice. I'm glad that they, good season, good participation, and a lot more swimmers out there that are safe in the water, and that's really important.
If I may add, President Ward, just to, Courtney has done an excellent job with this program ever since its inception, and she'll be the first one to tell you there just seems to be more and more and more people every year, and it really is a nice service that we provide to the public, and we are all very excited and very anxious to eventually get our own pool to have and call our own.
Yeah.
Will be so exciting, and I know she's looking very forward to it.
As a parent, when you have children that are 5, 6 years old, they want to get in the water, and you need to get them water safe, and you have to be able to get their head underwater at some pool, so.
And we're 106% enrolled because we do everything we can to get as many kids in the program as we possibly can, and since we have a limited number of hours to offer swimming lessons, particularly in the evenings when working parents need it, we're really looking forward to, that's another reason to be excited for our own facility, because we can do some additional programming and really service more of the community and help to make more of this community water safe.
Yeah, because the Ys, I guess YMCA's and the schools are, school's basically competition, so they expect you to know how to swim by the time you get to high school, but you gotta learn. Yeah. Very good.
Are we anticipating that once our pool is built, that we would not use Hoover or Glendale? We're going to continue to use them,
Always.
correct?
I would assume, Commissioner Rothvogel, I have every intention of continuing our summer aquatics program to provide the most opportunities for the community. I have heard no discussion whatsoever about eliminating.
Good.
This would be an enhancement of, but providing a year-round. We've been wanting for years to try to offer programming year-round, but because there are a lack of facilities, and because those facilities are either at the schools or the Ys, they're doing their own programming at those locations, so it's very difficult to squeak in a few hours here and there, and this will just be another nice enhancement to our current level of programming.
And with the 100-degree temperatures that we're still having, are we getting requests still for the wading pools, and are we able to accommodate those?
The most recent request I got was for September 20th, but they ended up canceling. And I think part of it is because it's advertised that you can rent the wading pool during the summer months, and now that we're really at the end of September, I haven't received any requests.
I think when school starts, they kind of phase it down.
they do.
Not to mention that we do lose a large chunk of our staff.
Right.
In the process, they go back to school or get into other fall activities, and it's difficult to be able to accommodate beyond the summer. So we do the best that we can with our resources. If we can accommodate it, we'll certainly do it. But I think people are really hoping for the fall to come around. So.
Especially today, it's hot.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank
good
you, Courtney.
presentation. Okay, our next item.
Our fourth report is the ball field renovation projects update.
And I'll introduce once again Coco Panosian to the podium to give you a brief update on some upgrades to a few of our fields out in the community.
Good afternoon again, President Ward, members of the Commission. We have three major ball field renovations going on concurrently. One of them was at the Montrose, the Little League field. One of them currently still going on at the sports complex. And we also did a renovation at the Palanconi Park ball field. Palanconi Park ball field is somewhat different than the other because it was a full-on staff effort. Staff was the one who verticut and removed most of the sod from the area. They graded it and it was seeded. They used Kikuya to seed the facility. Now it is fenced off to let it grow and root properly for, I'm not sure when the season will open to use that facility, but we're giving it the proper time to rest and for the turf to root. The Montrose Little League ball field renovation is actually complete. That is also fenced off, giving it the proper time to root. We are at the sports complex currently. I believe they're doing the irrigation check, making sure it has proper coverage because the sod is scheduled to come in sometime next week. Once the sod goes in, that will be one of the other fields to be shut down for use, at least for a couple of months until that is also rooted. And scheduling questions-wise, I'm sure I can relay the questions if you have any scheduling questions when they open back to our sports staff. But in terms of the projects, it took a lot of staff effort from both sides. For Montrose and Sports Complex, we did use contractor, LTS Laser Grading, who's also Barron Construction, to do the laser grading work at both facilities. And West Coast Turf is the sod manufacturer and installer that we used. We used at Montrose, and we are going to be using also at the sports complex to lay down the 100-foot roll turf, and our staff will be doing most of the rest of the work. It encompassed initially to spray out the turf to kill whatever the existing turf was, verticut and sweep the turf, remove the sprinklers, cap them. The manufacturer, or the contractors came into laser grade, and the most important part of it is when they actually reinstall the sprinklers, raise them back up, and do the turf coverage. They do that before the turf installed, so you can actually see better in the dirt where it's getting wet, where it's dry. So once the proper coverage is done with staff, with the help of our building repairs crew, we make sure when the turf goes in, every inch of that turf is going to get the proper water to grow. And that is in short. Yep, if you have any questions, please.
Well, that's great.
Nope.
Wear them down, they need to be rebuilt. Very good program.
It was brought up last night, though, was at Chill Canyon. All the grass is brown now. That you can't keep it up because there's so much activity there.
It does get a very
That's too
heavy
bad
use.
after Shahin.
Yeah, and I know Shine's
So
heart
hard,
may be
it's beautiful.
broken. Shine's heart may be broken, but the facility didn't get the rest period that it needed for it to root
Yeah.
properly. And also soccer got on that immediately right
yeah.
away. And we all know it does impact the turf heavily, and there are some bare areas. But with the sports staff, our maintenance crew is working with our sports complex to give it a couple of additional days to rest.
That's good.
So we can do the aerating, we can reseed and give it proper fertilization in some of the areas. Not seed, but the fertilization to make sure it grows stronger as we continue on with the season. So we're working with sports staff to make sure we give it some of that rest and proper maintenance for the field.
And Commissioner Sharkey, just to add to your comment, we did give an update last night on the youth sports fees, and it is very relevant to our upgrading that we're doing at our ball fields. And yes, Councilmember Najarian did mention the Shoal ball fields, now that here it is only 5 or 6 weeks into the AYSO season, and we're already seeing a noticeable difference. Joanne, Gabrielle, in the sports complex and sports crew, also Gary Morello and his staff, we are doing our best internally to communicate our needs in terms of if we need to create a firm calendar of days where we need to take various fields down or facilities down to rest and grow sod, then, we will come back to the sports leagues. We've already had a chance to meet with a few of our baseball folks, and we have actually our quarterly sports meeting next week to talk to them a little bit more about, because we do have some limitations here in terms of funding, we may need to just say we need some time to let the grass grow and rest a field. And I think that the staff are just finalizing up a few of the details in the calendar so that we can talk to the leagues and see how this fits into their schedules. Obviously, we don't want to cut into their typical season. This would be for off-season or times when it's less of a demand. The thing is, though, that it seems like every sport no longer has a season per se. It just goes on year-round. So due to our limited resources of fields, we are simply at the point where we in order to keep up and make them continue to look lush and green, we may have to set some parameters on those. So
That was a lot of work and expense.
yes, but we want to make sure that we do a really good job of making sure they are part of that process and not just definitively told this is what we're doing. So again, we have that meeting next week, next Thursday night with the and we have some new presidents, by the way. They voted in some new officers, and so it would be a good reestablishment. Actually, while that was a fairly exciting issue, it has opened up some of our lines of communications with them because, to some degree, they said, we know that you're in a hard place. We don't have the money, and what can we do? So it's opened up some lines of communication, and some good things are happening. So I think this is the first step of saying, listen, we're doing what we can to help you out as well. We want to give you the best facility we can give you.
Good. Keep us informed on that as it goes. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coco.
Next item.
Monthly activity reports, recreation and community services.
It's back to me, President Ward, members of the Commission. This is a fairly light activity report. We normally would have included some of our summer programming in here, but since we did have Ms. Maglio come and speak about the aquatics program, this one's a little shortened version. No major topics to highlight, although you will see on the civic revenue, we did have a little dip in revenue this month. No major trends that we're seeing, but just a little slower month for the folks up at the Civic Auditorium. On the flip side, the Customer Service Monthly Report, which is all of our outlying community buildings, picnic shelters, etc. Summer's our busiest time, and so we do see an increase in revenue profits there. And now that we are finishing up our Joe Bridges Clubhouse and our Dunsmore Clubhouse, we actually already began receiving some reservations for our Joe Bridges community room. So you can see, even though we're not open yet, we've already got some folks on the book, not tremendous amounts of money, but people already getting excited and getting geared up to get in there. And I think Mr. Ahern will give you more feedback on that when we get to his report.
Very good. That's dedications coming up next month, or this month, or this month?
18th? This month.
Yeah, this month, 18th, that's right. Okay. I forget that today's the first of the month.
What's the 18th? What is the 18th?
The Joe Bridges,
Clubhouse
dedication ceremony.
Oh, okay.
The pancake
Go
breakfast.
on to our next report.
It's on your calendar.
I see. Thank you.
The next report is CIP projects and park rangers.
There we go. Dave will fill us in.
Sure will. President Ward, members of the Commission, I'll run through it, and I'll try and make it a bit briefer today than I have in the past as well. So in pre-planning and entitlements, I'll just highlight two of the key projects. We have several in that category. Two that are seeing major movement are Maple Park and Pacific Park Pool. So on Maple Park, it's about a $4 million project. It's an expansion and renovation of the existing building. So we'll be bringing a concept plan to the council on October 28th. That plan isn't ready yet. If it were, we would be bringing it here to you to look at. it's not quite ready yet. Essentially, it adds some square footage for office space, adds a deck, and then renovates the interior of the facility, provides HVAC, adds a patio area for seating near the playground. So again, it's just in concept form now, so you'll be seeing that as well as the council, and you'll see it a few more times before we go into to the bidding process with that. Pacific Park Pool, we took a concept plan to the council, the same plan that we brought to the commission. Council, after some discussion, gave us direction to rework our plan and bring them back a revised plan. So we've been working on that for the past few weeks. We will have a report to the council also on the 28th, and in that report we'll offer the council the options that they've requested. So additional pool lanes, going from 6 to 7 to 8 lanes, and then identifying what the cost implications of those are, and also identifying resources, funding resources to address those. And then with council direction, we'll be able to firm up a concept plan and come back with a contract for the designer to go to development drawings and then CDs, plans and specs. So as we move forward with that, we'll also bring that back to the commission.
Dave, what was I read an article in the newspaper, I didn't see your presentation. I'm sure it was very good. But our original pool lanes, was it?
4 lanes.
4 lanes.
4 lanes with what we call splash and spray play. It also includes the relocation of the existing playground out into the front concrete plaza area of the facility. So this will be more than that.
So you're going back with 6, 7, or 8. It's like a variation based on what the costs are associated with each, adding a lane each time.
It'll be a linear progression showing here's 7 lanes, here's 6, here's 7, here's 8, here's what they cost, here's the spray and the splash. And the spray and splash, is, we think about pools when we were kids. The modern day pools, it's not your father's Oldsmobile.
No.
It's things have changed, and they have many raging waters, for lack of a better term, in these facilities, and they're what the kids really seem to love and enjoy. When we went on our tour of facilities, we were told by the lifeguards that those are the most popular elements, and these kids come and play in that. And I said, do they come back the next day? And they would point to different kids and say, that kid's here every day, same place.
Yeah.
And they're not quite yet, as you were saying earlier, President Ward, they're not quite water safe yet, so this is a way for them to get in, get cooled off in the summer heat, have fun with their friends. And the pool is also designed to have an area for teaching with steps, so that you'll be able to sit as opposed to hanging on the edge of the pool and looking over your shoulder, but sit and take instructions and then come into waist-deep water or chest-deep water. It's also good for disabled individuals or seniors that simply want to sit and get into the water partially. So a lot of advantages to it, and these new designs. We've got a first-class design team on board, and we'll bring it back, provide the options, get direction, and then get this thing on the road, get it built.
Also, when you add lanes, wasn't it that then you also have to add more locker and restroom? So you're getting into more and more expense. We were getting, up to $500,000 there or something?
Yeah, there's a coefficient of, for every square foot of water, there's so many square feet of deck, and after so many square feet of water, so many lockers are required, so many showers are required. And so it's all codified. And so as we look at it, that expands with everything else. And the good news is, we own the land.
Right.
So building a bigger facility on this, from that standpoint, maximizes the use of the land. And that's a major cost in anything that we do. So we already have a fixed land cost. That's a sunk cost that's behind us. Now we're just looking at construction costs. And then increased operation costs for Brittany's staff and for Gary's staff too. The bigger the facility, the more water you have to filter, heat, clean. all of that. So that specific park pool, we'll be bringing that on October 28th to the council. And those, again, are in the pre-design and entitlement process. Out to bid, we're out to bid on the Cedar Park. Actually, we've completed the bidding on Cedar Park Bungalow. That'll go to council on October 21st for award of bid. So that's the bungalow portion of the project. The park portion of the project was bid separately, and that is out to bid currently. The bids on that close on November 5th. We're seeing very good bidding numbers come back to us, 20% below.
Wow, that's big.
What we had expected on the bungalow. So we're in a, there's a silver lining. It's the bidding environment is very competitive. I'll tell you about the ARC in a second. We're out to bid on that. We've extended the bid period on that and set a new date for the pre-bid meeting, simply to clarify some things in the specifications. So it's a matter of fairness, with that complicated of a bid, we extended the date, republished, so there'd be no mistake. As of this morning, we've been contacted by 35 contractors wanting to bid on that project. So folks are looking for work. We're going to have the benefit of this competitive environment for that. That bid will close on December 17th, and we should get this thing under construction in late January or early February. So those are the major things that we're out to bid on. Under construction, Glen Oaks Clubhouse is just about done. It's all the finishing touches now, blinds and appliances, and we've added a few things to it, painting the exterior that hadn't been in the budget, but we've done so much work, it seemed a shame not to finish that up. So got that done. Some other work that got done at Glen Oaks was the removal of the caretaker's house. Once that was removed from the corner, we had to fix that corner area and re-landscape it, regrade it, replant it. The handicap ramp at the corner where it butted that area was a substandard ramp, and we thought, we've done all this work, it'd be a shame not to fix that and put in a proper ramp. So that was done by our friends in the Public Works Department. We called our cousins over there, and Mr. Galanyan and his staff came and helped us out. With
probably a great price, too.
A great deal, half off. So we got that done. So Glen Oaks, rather, also got new playground equipment, and they're resurfacing the tennis courts as we speak. So it's really been a total redo of that park. The ribbon cutting will be October 18th at 9 a.m. I know it's on your calendars already, but I'll just give you that again. The other one that will have a ribbon cutting on in November is Dunsmore. Very similar situation at Dunsmore, new playground equipment, new site work, flat work, and then the renovation of that building. So November 15th, 10 o'clock, we'll have the ribbon cutting for that facility. And then our playground equipment project, it's probably about 80% complete. We're working on Wilson Mini Park, Milford Mini Park right now, and then we've got to do Fremont being the largest of the parks getting playground equipment. We completed Glorietta, Carr, and Glen Oaks already. Milford's just about done. Wilson's in progress, and then Fremont. So we think we'll do some type of ribbon cutting in mid-December. Tentatively, we're looking at December 13th as a date to do a ribbon cutting for the playground equipment at that facility, representative of all the playgrounds that we just finished. $500,000 worth of playground installations, so it's worth celebrating. So we'll do that in December, and then we're just about to start construction on the fire sprinklers at the Civic Auditorium. So we've negotiated a bid with the contractor on that. You'll recall we had previously rejected all the bids on that. We only had two as non-responsive. They had left out significant or important technical details that City Attorney's Office advised us we should reject the bids, but we were able to negotiate with the lowest bidder, again significantly below what our engineering estimate had been. So the next step with that is to pick a date, working with the Civic Auditorium staff and with the college staff, so that as we close down sections of that garage for repairing that sprinkler system, we won't impact their programs too much. So we're working on getting that date selected. Then, so that's it for construction. Events, Commissioner Sharkey, we were at the stargazing event at Dugmasian Wilderness Park with the Rangers and the trail staff, Jeff and Mark Sturdivant, and that was, we actually hiked together.
It was a great hike, and the kids were so excited. There were two hikes.
Two hikes.
One that we went on, the tough one straight up, and then the interpretive hike. But we had little kids on it. And then later we had stargazing, and the staff had, for the stargazing event, Milky Way, starbursts, eclipse gum,
moon pies,
Boy.
and little lights. And the question I had, the people who had the telescopes, they were donating their time and their telescopes. They were wonderful to
Correct.
the kids, just wonderful. And
Jeff had organized that with them, and that's an astronomy club, I believe. I think they're affiliated with the college, I'm not sure, but they've really enjoyed coming up there and putting on that program. It's been great.
Yeah, it was a great event. It really was.
So we'll be, the Ranger report is now with the CIP section. I've assumed responsibility for supervision of the Ranger program. So part of it was we'd been working so much with them already with the trails management and the security report that it just made sense that we get a better connection between our two groups. So I've been going on ride-alongs with the Rangers. I'm going on one again tonight. I was at their staff meeting last night. So learning about what they do and programs, and they do quite a bit. We have 2 full-time Rangers and I think it's 6 part-time Rangers. And most of them have a background in law enforcement. Well, all of them have a background in law enforcement, except for one who's more of a naturalist, interpretive background. And so over time, working with Russ and Eric, our 2 full-time Ranger employees, we'll figure out how to evolve this program and continue doing the work of the Rangers. It's got so many parts to it. They do fire prevention work, they do police patrol work, and they do the interpretive naturalist work. So, and then they're also our eyes and ears in the parks and the city's ambassadors in the park. So, spending more time with them, getting to know them, and also getting them involved in design on parks. So, just in the few ride-alongs or time that I've spent with them, I've already seen things that we do in our park planning and design that would impact what they do. So, really need to spend a little more time getting them involved in the planning stages while these things are still on paper. We were driving a path through Maple Park, and I quickly realized we're putting a building right where that path is. So that we're going to need to give them another path. Be good to figure that out now before we start construction. So there's some real interaction there. And
It seems very logical.
I'm
Almost afraid to say that.
Both Rangers,
get out and walk also.
Ross and Eric, wonderful connection with the kids and great mentors. So, but anyway, I guess.
appreciate your support, Commissioner Khan.
No, they do.
Friends like him.
President Ward, Mr. Ahern, since our last commission meeting, had we had our trailer at Brand Park put up? I believe
we
that's a
talked
new
about that.
Yeah, you did.
component.
We installed a park ranger substation at Brand Park as part of the security improvements. So that's now up and operational. And we staffed that with the part-time ranger technician who's essentially got a background in interpretive programs, and also have Jeff from our trails management staff working with him. And What that does is they're on the same radios as the park rangers and the police department. So it puts a set of eyes and ears there in the park and a highly visible place. We've also, for the past 2 weeks, engaged in a stepped-up enforcement program at the park with the rangers. So going through and making people aware that the rangers are there in a much larger way and addressing a lot of the small items, the speeding, the illegal parking, noise violations, things like that. They've also made some arrests for possessions of drugs and things of that nature along the way. So that substation, along with their presence, is making a difference in brand, and that's a place where Brandon and Carr have been the two to have the greatest number of complaints in that regard. And again, we'll continue to staff that substation on a pilot basis and see how this works out for us. In the meantime, Jeff will be working with the ranger technician there and starting to develop some trails management programming while we're there. And from that, perhaps we can develop a docent program. See how we can develop this with volunteers as well as the sworn and part-time staff. And because they're carrying the park ranger radios and cell phones, when they identify a problem in the park, we don't necessarily want them to go and proceed in that issue. Simply radio in the call and let's get a park ranger there, or let's get a police unit there and address the issue. So I think we're on a good path with solving our problems there. But at the same time, we're continuing to work on the other security improvements, gates, lighting, tree trimming, all of those things that need to be done to physically improve the safety of the park.
Very good.
That's good.
Any other comments? Okay, next item.
The Park Services Monthly Activity Report.
And President Ward, in the absence of Gary Morello, our Park Services Administrator, looking over his monthly activity report, looks fairly mostly maintenance opportunities, with the exception of the ball field renovation, which Mr. Panosian covered early on in our meeting. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to pass those along to Mr. Morello at this time. But
Is he doing some of the playground installations in-house too, some of those?
No, the playground installations are being done by a contractor for our group, although they're doing the inspections as well to make sure that we receive a product that they're comfortable with.
Okay. Very good. Commission staff comments?
I do have a few.
Yes.
I received a telephone call this morning from Larry Zarian asking me if I was going to a reception tomorrow. And I said, I don't know anything about it, but, and then he gave me all the information, and I had to swear up and down that I would state that this is what's taking place, and I get here today and there is a reception, or there is a certificate. And what it is for Dale Bonner. He's the Secretary of Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency for the state of California. He was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger, and I guess there's a reception for him tomorrow, Thursday, October 2nd, between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. at the Americana. And there's a room here called the MARC building, and it's near the Cheesecake Factory on Central Avenue.
Good.
So I wanted to make sure I got that in. So now that I've done that.
I'm sure that Mr.
didn't call
Zarian will
me.
be happy. Hey, you didn't call me either.
He didn't call me.
there's a message
But
at
we
your
did
house.
get the...
The other thing I wanted to mention was as it relates to this boxing ordinance, or if that's what it's called. It was kind of interesting because when we got our packets, you have real mixed feelings on it in terms of, I've been to boxing events before, and I would certainly go to this boxing event here in the city of Glendale just to see what it was like. But I wish I had a chance to watch more of that meeting. I appreciated your report, though, because I do think it was kind of an interesting thing that it went last night, and then we're talking about it here today. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays itself out. I'm very curious about it. And
I agree, Commissioner Khan. It almost couldn't have been more perfect timing for us to have it at our meeting the following day. And it was very interesting, that you mentioned having those mixed feelings. I think that sentiment is shared not only amongst the council members, but maybe some folks in the community who are unsure. And, it's one of those things along the lines of the gun show at the Civic. It brings, different feelings for different people. I think just one of those things that you almost need to experience it to gain a full respect for or have an opinion on it. There's a lot of community sentiment, negative sentiment towards the gun show at the Civic. When I came on as administrator, I thought, well, I have to check this event out. I got to see what's going on. But I have to tell you, I was almost a little bored at the event. I mean, it's just a big sales show. They still have to follow the same regulations for sales like they would anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And it's just literally folks, mostly collectors, to tell you the truth, looking around. And it's not just guns. It's folks that have even armor or medieval types of...
Yeah, Western wear.
Yeah, kind of along those associated items, but even a lot of political items for sale, bumper stickers, T-shirts, things like that. But it was really, you almost walk in, it was almost like walking into a library. The noise level was so quiet because folks are just perusing, and I think this is one of those things, too, that just touches people in a certain way where they either think, hey, that's a neat something, or not in my community, So at least this is a nice compromise solution that the council gave this promoter to say, you know what, we're willing to give you one shot, see how it goes. And then, that's not opening up the door to, all right, everybody come on in now. They still want to be able to make sure it's under control, but, I think that was a very fair assessment, and see how it goes. And
see how the community reacts.
We certainly can use the revenue for the Civic. It would be nice, but, we don't want that to be the ultimate decision maker, and that wasn't in this particular case.
Only just begun.
Any other comments?
I do
Yes.
have some comments, actually.
Commission comments.
I did watch City Council last night, and I was a little disappointed when Councilman Member Najarian asked if any commissioners had made recommendations on the fees. And he even said, his quote was, he'd like to see the commissioners bring their great ideas to us. And he even asked if we had any revenue ideas. And I thought there was a disconnect with staff and the Sport League members, and now there's a disconnect with commissioners and staff recommendations. And I know I submitted and handouts of 5 different ideas, whether they were new ideas, it didn't matter. And the other commissioners had comments. But I just felt that the council's impression was that we didn't do anything. That it was all about, and even the Glendale News Press had our comments in it the day after. So I spoke to Councilman Quintero this morning, and he said, get me the packet, get me what other commissioners said, and so I'll do that. But he knew nothing about it. I just got the impression that even the mayor had asked for alternative proposals, and I thought we did our best to come up with things, but the council didn't think we did anything. That's the impression I got. So I was very disappointed.
And Commissioner Sharkey, I will admit I was a little startled at that question as well, although I did make sure to mention that, yes, we did receive feedback from our commission. But
it was just sort of...
Well, we did include samples.
I know it was late. It was late.
I think that may have been one of the items. And I did include examples in the report of types of suggestions. I did not list who specifically gave the suggestion.
No, but it was, I don't even recall any commissioner comments in the report. I mean, that we even said anything.
We didn't, I did not state in the report who provided it. The direction to me was simply to provide an overall summary of what occurred from the day where we initially adopted the fee to what occurred to now. And so even Councilmember Najarian asked me point blank, is this just a summary of what occurred, or were you bringing this back? And my initial direction was provide a summary of kind of from the beginning to now. So I apologize if you...
You even asked if we were going to have a meeting to discuss.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Specifically
revenue,
discuss
he
revenue
didn't even
ideas.
know about the August 14th. At least it seemed that way. I have a call into him. I want to see just what he was referring to. And I'd also like the mayor to know that we did listen to his request.
And I did specifically state in the report, the report did say, and again, I was being as brief because it was going on 11 p.m. at the time it occurred, but the report did specifically state, right up front in the summary, we had a meeting on August 14th. Here's who we invited, here's the outreach we did, here's some suggestions and feedback we received. And I also wanted to let them know, excuse me, that this is not just a dead item as of right now. I tried to explain that we took a little bit of a hiatus during the month of September because when we want to go back to the sports leagues to see when we could arrange a meeting, they were holding their elections. So they weren't really prepared to jump right back in and discuss those because they were changing officers' hands. And so we do have our first meeting scheduled for next Thursday, and one of the items on there is we want to bring back these revenue ideas and explore some of them. So
should
it is
we
not an
agendize something
certainly we
for
can.
revenue ideas as
We could, that would be a good idea.
Certainly.
and
Sure.
are we a part of that meeting? Will be
The meeting is next Thursday, and it's our quarterly meeting with the youth sports groups. Any of you who would like to attend are more than welcome, or we can even set up a separate meeting. This is a little bit of a meet and greet because I'd say half of the folks are new players, and they don't even know who we are, and we'll need to get kind of filled in. Either if you'd like to come to that meeting, absolutely.
I feel the council wants
Or
us
if we would
involved.
like to have a secondary
The
follow-up
decisions.
meeting.
We should
to
probably let them know that, one of their goals is going to be to come up with creative ideas
Absolutely.
for increasing some revenue to offset, even like you said, the fields that were so heavily impacted already. And then give this commission an opportunity to review what the comments are
Absolutely.
and/or add our comments and then forward it to the full city council so that they understand that we're addressing this issue and trying to resolve alternatives.
And perhaps one of us speak.
Yeah, be glad to take it to
Absolutely.
the commission.
And
Yeah.
you, because,
Present it to them.
right.
But I liked your idea about putting it on the agenda because it makes it more formal
Exactly.
as opposed to
Yeah.
just showing up randomly at places.
I agree.
Or discussing it without getting a response back, so it's in the minutes.
And President Ward, members of the commission, it is almost perfect timing now. We're getting ready to get ourselves reestablished with these groups for the upcoming year, and our budget cycle will be coming up soon as well. So it is very appropriate and perfect timing for all of the discussion to take place.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Ty, for bringing that up. More comments?
Just a couple. First of all, last night they also talked about the smoking ordinance. Now, there's currently no smoking allowed in the parks already, correct?
I don't believe it is a blanket no smoking. I know that there are restrictions in terms of so many, I believe it's 20 feet within children's play areas and 20 feet with operable doors and windows, and that's citywide. I will confess I have not delved into the entire complexities of the new smoking ordinance. One of the things that we can arrange for is to invite Mr. Engel from our Neighborhood Services Department over to give you a presentation at our next commission meeting. Might be a nice,
Well,
that's something you're
that
interested in.
plus, how is that going to affect our rangers who are really going to be the people that would have to enforce that? The second thing is that as I'm driving around town, I've noticed, especially, I think it's at Fremont Park, a couple of people operating training sessions or boot camp type classes on a regular basis, in the park, and I don't remember day and time, but I see it often enough that next time I see it, I guess I'll bring it to your attention. And do we charge for that? Do we permit that? How do we handle that?
Commissioner Rottfogel, we do require a permit to utilize the parks, especially if it's for some type of proprietary means. We do have some folks that operate boot camps in our parks legitimately by permit. Every now and then, whether it's a boot camp operator or somebody having a picnic or wedding photos, there are those folks that see it's a public park and think, well, it's a public park. I should be able to do whatever I would like to do in a public park, and may not be informed or aware that there are certain permits or regulations. But certainly, if you pass by and see anything that you think, maybe I should ask about that, don't hesitate to call either myself. Also, in terms of park permits themselves, I should let the public know Monique Herrera and her folks at the customer service office are the ones who permit out those facilities. Anyone can contact them at 548-2152, and they'll provide them any information regarding any of our parks, picnic shelters, etc., and can set them up with a permit legitimately to hold those
Pretty easy that
activities.
if it's a commercial activity in a public park, they need a permit.
Yes.
Next item, I was wondering if Mr. Ahern would make a comment about Relay for Life. How did that go?
Yeah.
Sorry I couldn't make it.
Co-chair.
Yeah.
President Ward, Commissioners. Relay for Life. Well, President Ward, I ran
Was
into
there?
you at Relay for Life. All of you could have been there. I wouldn't know. I was running around from item to item that day, but we had a great event. It's our first year back at Shoal, and I have to tell you, really enjoyed being at Shoal. Just the whole atmosphere up there. You almost feel, once you get around that last bend, you think you're in Lake Arrowhead when you get up. So it was a little warm, a little toasty
It was.
up there. So that impacted everyone. But again, this was our 5th year, so we had a little smaller crowd. We didn't raise as much money as the year before, but we will probably break $120,000 in our fundraising this year. So in 5 years, we've raised approximately $600,000 for cancer research with Relay. Probably had 350 to 500 participants at any given time at the event. Continue to broaden the event within the community. All 3 hospitals now participate, the Memorial Hospital, the Verdugo, and the Adventist. So it's continuing to grow and become a well-established Glendale event. We had a great time. I'm glad it's done. Only 363 days to Relay.
But who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? But thank you for asking. It was indeed a fun time, and park rangers were there. Our department sponsored the kids camp, and they did a lot of fun things in the kids camp. And Glendale Arts ran the entertainment component. All the employees associations pitched in and sponsored something. The GMA and the Jewel City Kiwanis sponsored the lunch. The GMA and Damon's and a number of downtown restaurants sponsored the dinner. The General Employees Association sponsored the midnight dinner. We eat a lot at this event.
Fire department did the breakfast.
Firefighters did the breakfast. The Police Officers Association did all the soft drinks for the event. Glendale Water and Power donated about 100 cases of water for we went through every case up there, and there was, I could go on with the number of volunteers. You always leave somebody out, but it was a great cross-section of the community groups participating. So, great event. Great. Thank you for asking.
Very good.
And then 2 other quick things. Last Friday night, I was at the Casa Adobe for the Fiesta Cita with the Days of Verdugo Heritage Association. That's their annual fundraiser, and they support the Verdugo Adobe and keep that running, and they're the docents out there. And it was a great event, and they did a really good job. And the last thing I have is this coming Wednesday, excuse me, the firefighters are having their annual luncheon at, this year it's back at the Hilton, and just wanted people to know about that. And I think they're, during the day, there's...
What time is that at, do you know?
It's 11:30 on the 8th, and right there is the, almost as if on cue, is the flyer. GTV6 is helping by running it free all day up until, or during the day, up until the event. And for more information, people can call 818-550-5616.
GTV6 is good.
They're great.
How did they know that you...
I didn't say anything to them. They did it on their own.
I'm
They must be
impressed.
watching.
Okay, any staff comments? Yes.
I would just like to note a few dates for both the commission and the public. On Sunday, October 12th, is our Unity Fest celebration, and everyone should note that this year is going to be held on Brand Boulevard. In years past, it was Verdugo Park. This year, Brand Boulevard between California and Lexington. The event will be held from 12 p.m. noon to 4 p.m. And it's our same annual celebration. And look there, GTV6. Thanks, guys. We appreciate that. For more information, I was going to see if there's a different number on the screen, but no, it's the same number. Folks at home can call 548-3220. So it should be another great event this year. Then this is kind of a little exciting something, not so much an event to attend, but for the seniors out there in the community. At Spar Heights Community Center, we will be hosting an AARP driving safety program. That'll be held on Monday, October 20th, and Wednesday, the 22nd. Participants are required to participate in all hours of the program. It is a cost of $10 to participate, but if they receive their DMV certificate, then they get a 3-year reduction in their auto insurance premium. So, and again, that's given by the AARP. That is October 20th and 22nd at Spar Heights Community Center from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And if anyone at home requires additional information, they can call 548-2188. So that's a nice public service for the community. And then, the end of the month, Halloween. We got lots of Halloween stuff going on. On Friday, October 24th, we have 2 Halloween events. Halloween Hoopla at the Pacific Community Center, and that's held in the gymnasium from 4 to 6 p.m. Lots of carnival games, costume contests. The telephone number there, 548-3220. And also Freaky Friday is another Halloween program for families. That's at the Spar Heights Community Center from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that is 548-2187 is the contact. Both of those events are free. Costumes, lots of candy, families, so come on out. And then on Friday, October 31st, the Maple Park Costume Contest from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that telephone number there is 548-3785. And lastly, the big Montrose Spooktacular, which is held every year at the Montrose Shopping Park on Honolulu between Verdugo and Ocean View, 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Again, admission for all those events are free. That particular event, 548-2002 is the number to call. So we have a lot of great Halloween activities.
That's on Halloween now.
Those last 2 events, the Spooktacular and the Maple Park, are on Halloween itself, which I believe is Friday night this year.
Yes.
So good, safe opportunities for families to go have Halloween activities if they're not too comfortable with the whole trick-or-treating idea. Nice alternatives, big events. So.
Very good. Get dressed up for that one. Yeah. Okay, do we have any written?
No written communications.
Okay, any other statements? And we're going to adjourn at 4:30.